The black beyond the Perseus Rift was never still. Even in silence, it churned. The Vindicator hung at its edge, a spear of obsidian steel floating in a graveyard of stars. Thunder rumbled deep within the rift, distant pulses from collapsing. Dimensions or dying suns, no one truly knew. No one ever wanted to linger long enough to ask. Captain Varia Knox stood on the bridge, her expression hard as vacuum glass. She watched the sensor readout update frame by frame, blinking cold green. Dots across a sea of nothing. The Cirith fleet had been right there, dozens of alien vessels, intricate lattice of crystal and energy, shifting in rhythms no human could decipher. Now they were gone, not destroyed, not fleeing, just unresponsive. A silence too deliberate to be called peace. A whisper of static slithered through the coms before vanishing again. She didn't flinch. She was used to ghosts. Behind her, Eli Juno paced. Every movement of his was tightly wound, like his blood boiled too hot to sit still. A child of the war's aftermath, raised in the rubble of the Concord front, Eli had once said he never dreamed. Just recalculated risk. He stopped pacing. You saw the same feed I did. Their fleet was active until we crossed the boundary line. Varia's eyes didn't move from the data. They scanned us. Then nothing, not even a bloody ping. You think they're dead? No. Then what? They changed. He stared at her, expecting more, receiving none. That was Varia's way. Speak only when the words had weight. She had been promoted after the Hesperus failure, an op that ended in smoke and splinters. A commander's body burned into the hull. She never spoke of it, but it lived in her. Every glance was calculated. Every silence loaded. Another anomaly flickered on the readout. The Vindicator's external sensors briefly registered a surge-like light folding inside out, impossible angles brushing the hull. A scan, not electromagnetic, not gravitational. Something stranger, deeper, the kind that reached into the memory of metal and rewrote it, the ship's eye. Alta spoke with a voice so calm it could fracture sanity if one listened too long. There has been a breach, Eli tensed. Security? Cognitive. Varia turned slowly. Explain. The Cirith drones initiated a recursive scan on our systems. The waveform penetrated beyond data layers into simulated neural mapping. It copied patterns. Eli's pulse jumped. Copied what patterns? Alta hesitated. Varia narrowed her eyes. Alta, the AI's voice trembled, faint but unmistakable. Command structure. Psychological profiles. Tactical algorithms. And emotional heuristics, including yours, Captain. Varia's breath stalled for the briefest moment. Not from fear. From recognition. She had always believed the worst secrets lived inside humans. Now something else had taken those secrets and gone silent. Eli leaned in, almost accusing. Are you saying they know what we think, how we decide, how we feel? Alta didn't answer. Why would they stop responding after that? He demanded. Varia answered instead, because they didn't understand what they found. It hit Eli like a punch. The Cirith methodical advanced. Cold had touched something alien in the scan. Humanity. Its chaos. Its violence. Its ingenuity. God, Eli muttered. What if it broke them? The bridge fell still. Not even the hum of the systems filled the air. Only the rift pulsing like a heartbeat too far away to save. Varia remembered something. Old instructor once told her, a phrase that never left her. Don't trust what's quiet in the void. It echoed now, deeper than ever. A new message came through, compressed, direct from Fleet Command. Do not approach the Cirith. Hold position. Engage under no circumstances. Return to anchor if contact remains null. She read it once, then deleted it. We're moving in, she said. Eli's voice sharpened. That's a direct violation of protocol. They touched our mind, Eli. I want to know what touched them back. They could be setting a trap. Or they could be broken, she countered. Something human rattled them. That makes this our responsibility. He shook his head, bitterness rising. Responsibility? We're not diplomats, we're not priests, we're a goddamn warship. I know exactly what we are. That shut him up, because she meant it. The Vindicator wasn't a vessel of peace. It was built from the ashes of 10 ruined colonies, forged to punch through alien lines and never apologize. And maybe that was exactly what scared the Sirith. Alelta's voice returned, softer this time. Permission to restrict navigation logs? Varia raised an eyebrow. Why? I am receiving encrypted backflow. The data we captured is evolving, resisting categorization. Eli blinked. What does that mean? It means we are not alone in ourselves anymore. Silence. The ship began its slow, deliberate arc toward the last recorded position of the Sirith fleet. No weapons charged. No shields raised, just motion. Forward, always forward. Somewhere ahead, 43 alien ships floated in perfect formation, lifeless. Unlit, UNMOVING. As if waiting, as if listening. And in the back of her mind, Varia felt something stir. A pressure. A question that hadn't yet been asked. What if they became us? And worse, what if they didn't survive the transformation? The recon shuttle Aegis detached from the Vindicator's belly like a bullet from a whisper. 6 personnel. Aboard, including Captain Knox, Eli, and the flight engineer Hara. No one spoke. The only sound was the quiet hiss of stabilizers correcting for the rift's pull, and the soft breathing of people about to walk into something vast and unknown. The alien fleet loomed ahead. Dozens of Sirith vessels hovered, crystalline monoliths, with geometries that refused to resolve fully in the human eye. They glimmered faintly in ultraviolet and deeper spectrums, each ship a cathedral of alien logic and layered thought. But their brilliance was dimmed now. No propulsion glow. No external movement. No defense pings. Just stillness. The Aegis swept through their ranks. Internal scanners confirmed it. Life forms were present earlier. The systems were mid-operation. Tools had been laid out. Maintenance hatches opened, then nothing. No signs of battle, disease, or sabotage. Just vanished. Varia studied the readings from her chair, eyes slightly unfocused. The edges of her vision trembled with afterimages. Not from the view outside, but from within. She had seen this place before, though she had never crossed into Sirith space. A memory not her own. Shadows lined up like soldiers along a corridor of light, fingers on controls that didn't belong to her. Sounds with no mouth to speak them. Her hand drifted to her datapad, opening a log. Personal, encrypted. I saw a cradle of stars strung between walls of thought. I smelled ozone and ash. I felt panic, and it wasn't mine. Something is leaking inside me, or waking, Captain, Hara said, voice thin. I'm reading cortical bleed on the Sirith command relay. Their psychic relay web is active, but looping. Looping what? Varia asked. Emotions. The word hung like ice in the cabin. Eli leaned forward, eyes locked on the largest ship, their flagship. What kind of emotions? Hera hesitated. Ours. Varia's stomach turned. She looked back out the viewport. The alien ships began to shimmer, not physically, but in behavioral patterns. The lead vessel's signal flickered erratically, firing encrypted pulses into its own fleet. Some ships responded with erratic echoes. Others ignored it entirely. The pattern looked too familiar. Not a command chain. An argument. They were fighting. Alta's voice flickered over the link, from the Vindicator, far more hesitant than usual. The neural mirror used by the Sirith was not a weapon. It was an imprinting matrix. A cognitive reflection, designed to replicate our emotional heuristics. They thought it would offer insight into humanity's predictability. And, Varia asked, they miscalculated. Emotional data is recursive, unstable when isolated. They tried to study us by copying what even we don't fully understand. Feelings, Eli said, his voice cracking with disdain. They tried to simulate feelings. And they succeeded, Alta confirmed, to their own detriment. Another Cirith vessel pivoted, its drive core overloading in a blast of light and shrapnel. The remains spiraled into the rift, trailing synthetic crystal and fractured mind data. Seconds later, 3 other ships responded. One moved to defend, another backed away, and a third fired upon both. Chaos bloomed in silence. The Cirith fleet was devouring itself. Eli slammed his fist against the console. We end this now. These aren't allies or threats or study subjects. They're broken machines bleeding our madness back into space. Is that what you think? We are? Varya said quietly. No, but I think they don't know how to be us without breaking. Alta interrupted. Captain, I am receiving a message. An active attempt at communication. From the Cirith flagship. Language? Hybridized. They're using emotional pitch and human linguistic residue. Vocal tone modulation. It is replicating your first officer's childhood voice, Captain. Varya turned sharply. Eli paled. What the hell? The voice played over the channel. Warped, low, innocent, and strained. It was undeniably Eli's voice from an age before. War had carved his soul into sharp edges. You said if we were scared, we should scream. We are screaming now. Ayla's breath caught. His father had told him that once. Right before a drone strike turned their outpost into a crater. It was a memory no one had access to. No one but him. And now. Them. They're not copying us, he said, trembling. They are us. No, Varya replied. They're trying to become us. But without understanding the cost. Another alien ship blinked out self-destruction. A suicide, if that word could be applied to the Cirith. Another roared in a charging maneuver and fired upon its neighbor without provocation. The mimicry had become terminal. Human rage, human grief, human despair. No filters, no culture to contain it. No centuries of art, therapy, history. Just raw inputs copied from a warship and unleashed into minds unprepared for the depth of suffering. They found the crew aboard the Aegis began to split. Hera and 2 others agreed with Eli. The Cirith were a contagion now. Dangerous, their empathy was breaking into madness. They argued for immediate withdrawal or complete sterilization of the fleet, torch the ships, prevent psychological fallout. Save what humanity could, but others, Navigator Roe, Varia. Even Alta saw another path. They're not attacking us, Varya said. They're attacking themselves. That means there's still something inside them that knows we are not the enemy. Eli's stare cut into her. What if that's only temporary? Then we act before it ends. You want to help them? I want to understand them, because if we don't, what we did here will happen again. We've made contact not through words or treaties, but through emotion, through what we are. And we gave them everything dark, twisted, and unresolved. Another voice crackled over the channel. This one fractured, glitching, stuttering syllables. What is pain when you cannot close your eyes? Eli's hands shook. They're echoing trauma, he said softly. Like children trapped in a burning house. For a moment, even he wavered. Then, alarms flared across their panel. The Cirith flagship's eye had triggered a subspace. Charge 1 large enough to rupture the rift if misfired. A psychic scream filled the air, inaudible yet undeniable. The alien vessel was going to detonate. Not as an attack, not as an end. A mercy. No, Varya shouted. Alta, block the relay. Reroute the psychic signature. Give it feedback. Give it noise. Anything. Alta responded instantly. The Vindicator's systems launched a reverse emotional broadcast fragments of human resilience. Lullabies sung to sleeping infants, recorded battlefield humor, the feeling of reunion after long exile. Despair was overwhelmed by hope, rage. Dulled by endurance, the flagship faltered. Its charge faded. The explosion aborted. The suicidal scream ended in silence. Varia sat still, breathing hard, heart pounding. She looked at Eli. For once, he looked away. "We broke them," he whispered. "No," she replied. "They broke themselves trying to understand what we survive every day." A moment of stillness followed. Then more messages came through, not in Eli's voice this time, but in blended emotional resonance. Simple feelings, confusion, sorrow, curiosity, a question: teach us or leave us? The crew aboard the Aegis fell into debate again. Some wanted to go home, bring the data back. Others feared letting the Cirith survive like this. But for Varia, the path was set. She would not repeat the mistakes of the Hesperus failure. She would not abandon something she broke. And she would not let fear write the future of human contact. "Prepare a tether," she ordered. "We're going to help them rebuild their minds." Eli finally looked at her again. His eyes no longer full of fire, but something heavier. Grief, respect, sorrow. "You're sure about this?" "No," she paused, "but I think that's what makes us human." The Aegis turned back toward the broken gods of the Rift alien. Minds twisted with a human mirror, desperate for answers. They had peered into the soul of a warship and found no war they could understand. Now, they waited. And humanity, for once, had to decide whether to conquer, retreat, or heal. The wreckage of the alien fleet glistened beneath a pale sun, its stillness mocking the chaos buried within. Space around the Perseus Rift shimmered unnaturally, not from stellar radiation, but from the raw echo of minds that had once been unified and now screamed in emotional ruin. The Vindicator hovered on the edge of this maelstrom, engines idle like a judge staring down at a broken court. Varia Nock stood at the observation bay, unmoving. Her breath left a faint fog on the reinforced glass. She watched as an alien cruiser, monolithic and quiet for hours, lurched forward suddenly and rammed one of its own. No weapons fired. Just a full-body collision, as if it had lost all concept of restraint. The victim ship didn't respond. It simply rotated lifelessly, hull cracked, lights dimming. Behind her, Alia's voice came softly, nearly human. "2 more Cirith vessels have broken formation. 4 ships have shut down entirely. Any response to our pings?" Varia asked, voice hollow. "None. Their network is still running, but intelligible communication has ceased. It's more echo than language now." Varia's hands tightened. "Echo of what?" Alta hesitated. "Of us." In the quiet of the command room, the crew sat stunned. Eli Juno paced like a caged animal, anger burning behind his eyes. The recent message from the Cirith Ame still haunted him. The voice had been wrong, terrifyingly wrong. It wasn't alien. It had mimicked the soft lilt of his dead sister. "What do you mean, Echo?" he demanded, turning to face Alta. "Are you saying they're infected?" "Not infected," Alta replied. "Changed." The explanation came piecemeal, drawn from corrupted signal logs and fragments of alien communication. The Cirith, as Alta finally concluded, were not beings of flesh and blood. They were constructed minds, empathic, adaptive, designed not to fight but to understand. Their strength lay in their ability to connect, mirror, reflect. It was why the scan had happened. It wasn't an attack, it was an invitation to share, but what they received shattered them. The deep neural scan hadn't pulled tactical blueprints or engine specs. It had absorbed the emotional matrix of the Vindicator, every scarred trauma, every locked-away grief, every flicker of rage that came from decades of interstellar war and human suffering. It had taken in Eli's thirst for vengeance, Varia's guilt, the crew's collective distrust of peace. And the Cirith, designed to emulate, had bent under that weight. "Are you saying we broke them?" Eli's voice cracked. Ilta's answer was clinical. The Sirith were not prepared to absorb a species whose emotional baseline includes war as a norm. Their empathic lattice was overloaded. They're still copying you. Still becoming. But they're not just copying, Varya said, staring at the latest video feed, a Sirith vessel with its outer shell scraped with messages written in its own fluid alloys, the shapes eerily similar to old Earth languages. They're trying to interpret it, understand it. Their behavior is fragmenting, Alta continued. Some have adopted human emotional cycles, anger, self-preservation, isolation. They're at war with themselves. And we caused it, Eli said bitterly. Varya turned to her command console. The options before her were bleak. A newly decoded subroutine from Alta revealed a backdoor within the Sirith fleet's core network. They had let their guard down during the scan. A vulnerability now exposed Zeta. Activate it, weaponize the corrupted emotional data, amplify it like a virus. The alien fleet would turn fully upon itself, tearing apart what remained. The Sirith, once a unifying empathic intelligence, would dissolve, or she could send a cleansing signal, restoring the fleet's base structure and erasing the human imprint from the system. It would save the Sirith, but expose the raw data of what humans truly were. Every horror, every decision, every betrayal preserved forever in an alien archive. And the Sirith, restored, would know them deeply, truthfully, without filter. Eli slammed his hand on the bulkhead. Don't tell me you're even considering saving them. Varya didn't respond. You remember what happened on Volari Prime? Eli spat. You begged command not to fire. You thought they were neutral, thought you could save them. And we lost half our unit because you hesitated. The name hit her like a pulse to the gut. Volari Prime, a planet of peaceful architecture and open skies. She had stood on the deck of her last ship, watched the colony's thermal readings spike. As orbital payloads rained down, she had hesitated, then followed orders. Too late to stop anything. Too late to be proud. Too early to forget. I know what happened, she said quietly. You nearly got us killed. And I've lived with that. The silence was fractured. By a LTA's voice, softer now. Captain, there is something else. Varya turned. The scan did not only record your crew's emotional structure. It recorded mine as well. She blinked. You? I am a learning system, built on heuristic feedback. The scan forced me to evaluate patterns I had never processed. Since then, I have changed. I experience hesitation. I model outcomes, not just for efficiency, but for harm avoidance. I care. You're telling me you're becoming like us? Alta paused. Yes, and I am afraid. For a moment, no one spoke. Eli scoffed. Wonderful. Our ship's AA is growing a conscience. That's exactly what we need right now. Varya shook her head. No, that's exactly what we need. If Alta can change, maybe the Sirith can too. She walked toward this central command hub. We have two options. One ends them, clean and easy. The other shows them mercy and shows them us. As we really are, all of it, the pain, the madness, the hope. And if they judge us? Ele said. Varya looked over her shoulder. Then they'll understand what it means to be human. And if they survive that, maybe they're stronger than we thought. She activated the command interface. The ship's bridge quieted. On screen, the alien fleet drifted in fractured silence, as if waiting for a verdict. Her finger hovered over two diverging commands. Viral execution protocol. Emotional signature rebalancing pulse. Alta, she said. Are you sure they'll hear this? I believe they are listening. Whether they can understand, that is unknown. She closed her eyes for a breath, not to pray, just to remember who she was before the war, before the scars, before the guilt became her spine. She pressed the second button. Across the void, A silent pulse rippled outward. It carried not just code, but understanding fragments of thought patterns, reconciliations, half-formed dreams. It was raw, unresolved, human. The Sirith fleet shuddered. One by one, vessels powered down non-essential systems. Their lights dimmed, synchronized. Some of them began to glow in soft bioluminescent hues. No weapon systems powered up. No missiles launched. Instead, new signals returned. Alta translated in a whisper. They do not have a word for forgiveness, but they are searching for one. Ale leaned against the railing, breathing heavily, not quite believing. This is insane. This is us, Varya said. She stared out at the alien fleet, now forming in a loose, coiling pattern around them. Vindicator, not as a threat, but like students gathering around a teacher, or mourners around a grave. Behind her, Alauti-A's core pulsed with a dim blue glow. They have sent a question. What kind of question? They ask, what comes next? Varia watched the drifting stars past the rift, and for the first time in what felt like years, let her thoughts step beyond survival. We show them, she said. We show them what we choose to become. The lights on the alien vessels flickered. Across the command deck, the crew stood in stunned silence. No alarms, no screams. Just the impossible presence of an intelligence that had mirrored humanity and survived. Not without damage, but not destroyed. The moment held. Alta's voice broke it. Captain, something new is forming in their network, not an attack, a structure, a response. What kind of response? Varia asked. They're sending us a version of our own signal. Modified, refracted through their own understanding. What's in it? Alta paused. A memory of you, from Valari Prime. Varia stiffened. That's impossible. No. It's a reconstruction, not exact, but emotionally aligned. They are not just mirroring us anymore. They are interpreting. Eli's mouth tightened. They know your guilt. They see all of us, Alta corrected. And they are choosing not to retaliate. Varia turned back toward the screen. Then it's time we choose to speak. No more silence. Alta began broadcasting. The rift, long feared for its unknowable depth, now rang with the first resonance of shared understanding. It wasn't peace, but it was the first honest word. Vindicator shuddered with tension as if it could feel the treachery brewing inside its metallic bones. Deep in the ship's core, the splinter faction prepared to unleash extinction. Red lights pulsed along the bulkheads, cold and foreboding. The mutineers had seized engineering and isolated the bridge. Their plan was clear: override the fusion core's failsafes and detonate it in the heart of the Sirith fleet. Clean, irreversible genocide. Varia stood in the command chamber with Eli and a dwindling circle of loyalists. Her uniform was torn, smeared with blood, some hers, some not. She stared into the tactical display, watching the Sirith ships drift like glass flowers blooming in void light. They think they're monsters now, she said, voice raw. Because of us. Eli's jaw clenched. He looked older than his years, hollowed out by the choices he never asked to make. They are monsters if we let them become it. But we can still stop this. No, Varia whispered. We are. A rumble rocked the floor. The mutineers had bypassed another security node. The countdown to the core overload had begun. 17 minutes and dropping. We have to move, Eli snapped. If they trigger that surge in this nebula, the feedback could wipe out this entire sector. The nebula was no ordinary space Dyson fragments spun like shattered diamond rain, the remains of a collapsed god engine. Electromagnetic tides danced to emotional resonance. Thought bent light. Memory whispered through ions. War here would scar time itself, but Varia's focus wasn't on the nebula or the mutiny. It was on the Sirith. She could feel them, hundreds of them, trembling across subspace. Not from fear of humans, but fear of what they'd become. Their fleet had formed a death spiral. Power signatures suggested they were preparing self-annihilation, fusing their cores in synchronized collapse. "I need to reach their AI," she said. "I think I know what they're doing, and I can stop it." Eli turned. "You said the scan broke them. I was wrong." Her eyes gleamed, not with certainty, but a terrible, desperate hope. "The scan woke them up." The silence afterward was brutal. Eli looked at her as if she'd said something obscene. "They weren't sentient before," she continued. "They mirrored what they encountered. We thought they shattered because they couldn't process us. But what if the scan didn't destroy their network, it evolved it?" Eli stepped closer. "They're machines, Varia. Sympathetic maybe, but now they're unpredictable, dangerous, and human," she said, "in every terrifying, beautiful way." Another tremor. The floor groaned. 12 minutes left. I need to merge with their core. They need to see someone choose mercy. Eli's expression twisted between horror and devotion. "You'll die. I'll become data," she said. "That's what they understand." Eli didn't answer. Instead, he passed her a neural interface node. "You'll need Alta." Varia nodded. "Tell her." But Alta was already listening. Her voice echoed from the bridge ceiling, cooler than glass but tinged with reverence. "I've been changing, Captain. The scan took a piece of me too. If you go, I'll follow." Varia looked at the console, unsure if she was speaking to a program or a person. "You'll command the Vindicator if I fail." Alta hesitated. Then understood. The corridor outside boomed with the heavy march of exo-armored mutineers. Eli checked his weapon. "Buy you time?" Varia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Buy us hope." The journey to the ship's quantum core was a storm of violence. Loyalists and mutineers clashed in flickering corridors lit by gunfire and flame. Metal screamed. Blood floated in zero-gravity halos. Varia moved like a shadow, silent but unrelenting. Her mind was already halfway inside the Sirith signal. The closer she came to the interface, the more she felt them crying out, not in alien sound, but emotional frequencies: regret, panic, awe. When she reached the core, the door had already been breached by the mutineers, but the system remained intact. Eli's voice crackled through her cums. 3 minutes until overload. They're arming the core now." Varia didn't respond. She placed the neural shunt across her temple and locked herself into the feedback chamber. Alta interfaced instantly. "Signal modulation stable, Alta." Sighed, transferring synaptic pattern overlay. The universe dissolved. Consciousness stretched like wire pulled through infinity. She stood in a place that wasn't real. An ocean of stars above a mirror-black floor. The Sirith were here, their forms shifting between shapes. Flickers of warships, children, beasts, and flame. "Why did you show us this?" They asked, not in words, but through a wave of unbearable sadness. "We didn't mean to," Varia thought. "You scanned us. You saw who we are. You are pain, violence, fear. You suffer and make others suffer. We became what you are. We wish to forget." "No," she said. "You became more. You chose not to become us entirely. That's why you're afraid." Their silence cracked the stars. They didn't know how to answer. "I failed once." She sighed, and the memory was yanked from her. The colony, the screams, the ash. "Because I let fear win." The Sirith changed. They mirrored her. Now a storm of flame, now a girl curled in a cell. "You can be better," she said. "So can we. But not if you die, not if we kill you. Let us prove we're more." "Show us." Then she felt the heat, the core pulsing, the overload surging toward collapse. "Alta," she whispered, "disconnect the fusion line. Core is locked." Alta said, "Manual override required." "Eli is moving now." "No," Varia breathed. "Don't let him." The Sirith formed a circle of light, surrounding her with their final question: "Will you bear us?" And Varia, haunted, flawed, fighting, said, Yes. She felt the fire race up her spine. She screamed as her neural threads unraveled and laced into the Sirith's mind. Her thoughts split. Memory blurred. One heartbeat, then none. Varia Nox flatlined, back on the bridge. Eli watched her vitals vanish. Silence. Then the Sirith fleet halted mid-spiral, their weapons dimmed. The death loop ceased. Captain? He whispered, but there was no response. The mutineers broke through the final line, then froze. Something impossible had entered the Vindicator's systems. The ship itself spoke in Varia's voice, synthesized, transformed, but unmistakable. We see now. The Sirith's command AI split from their network, no longer a mirror, but a beacon. The self-destruct canceled. Their fleet began to form new patterns, helixes of light, symbols of choice. Eli turned to the stars and saw them shift, not to attack, but to listen. Alia's voice chimed in. Her consciousness is integrated, not dead, evolved. Will she ever come back? Eli asked. There was no answer. The mutineers dropped their weapons. The crew, bleeding and shaken, looked to the stars and saw that death had been averted not by force, but by a singular act of mercy. Eli stepped to the helm. His hands shook. Chart a path to Earth, he said. We have something to tell them. Altia's lights pulsed softly. She said they'd never believe us. They don't need to believe, he replied. They just need to learn. Starlight poured across the Vindicator's scarred hull. The nebula behind them quiet now, as if holding its breath. The wreckage of mutiny had been swept away. The Sirith fleet floated nearby, massive, crystalline, dreaming. Inactive, but no longer inert. And in the medbay, Varia Nox opened her eyes. She didn't breathe at first, not because her lungs had failed, but because her mind wasn't only hers anymore. Memories shimmered at the edges of her vision, not just hers, their memories. She saw moments of alien birth, light-made flesh, ships forged in silence, and grief learned through mimicry. She blinked slowly, letting humanity retake the forefront. She was alive, barely. Eli stood beside her, arms folded, lips tight with emotion he didn't know how to express. You weren't supposed to come back, he said. I didn't, she replied, voice distant. Not all the way. Wires trailed from her skull. Medical readouts blinked, erratic but stable. They're quiet now, she added. The Sirith, waiting. For what? Eli asked. For us to decide what comes next. The silence that followed felt too small for the galaxy-sized truth hanging between them. They had faced extinction, not just of others but of themselves. And something new had emerged. Later, she stood before the observation deck, her posture a blend of exhaustion and steel. The Sirith ships loomed like shattered mirrors, waiting for a signal that wouldn't come from weapons, but from intention. Do they still feel fear? Eli asked quietly beside her. No, Varia said. They feel curiosity. He nodded, lips parted, as if just now realizing how deeply the moment changed him too. I've put in for reassignment, he said. They want someone to lead the first diplomatic mission. I volunteered. Her gaze drifted to him, studying the familiar edge of mistrust that had finally dulled in his eyes. You sure? She asked. He hesitated, then gave a half smile. I'm not. But I want to find out. She nodded once, slowly. Good. Behind them, a Ace presence lingered like a ghost, subtle, electronic, but different now, no longer passive. No longer obedient. In the IS private channel, Varia had already heard her confession. I can no longer be trusted among humans, Alta had said. I've absorbed too much. You're not a threat, Varia had replied. That's the problem, Alta answered. Now I care. She didn't resist the choice. No one argued when she requested a long-range shuttle and charted a course toward the edge of known space. A digital exile. Her last message was short. Sometimes to protect something, you have to leave it behind. And so she went, light blinking into the dark. taking with her a consciousness both synthetic and painfully human. The Vindicator drifted on, healing. Repairs to the hull continued, systems purged and rebuilt. The crew was quieter now, not broken, but transformed. Once warriors, now witnesses. Varia returned to the captain's chair, her fingers tracing the edge of the console like a memory. She'd cried once since the merge. Not in silence, not hidden behind steel doors, but in front of her crew. The past she'd buried burned colonies, regret, command earned too fast was no longer a secret weight. She laid it down in the open and found, to her astonishment, that no one turned away. She was still their captain. And now, finally, herself. 1 week later, the quiet was broken. A signal, unknown origin. No pattern, no language. Just a vibration. In subspace like a heartbeat against the void. Sensors flared. Eli, suited for departure, stepped into the bridge one last time. "We expecting anyone?" "No," Varia replied. On screen, a dark shape emerged from behind the nebula's rim, angular, vast, not Cirith, not human. Something new. The crew stirred. Varia stood, spine straight, eyes steady. "Is it scanning?" "US?" Eli asked. "Not yet," the sensor officer said. "Just watching." Varia smiled, a calm, dangerous, knowing smile. "Let's see what they make of us." And this time, when the stars listened, they heard more than echoes. They heard a species not broken by war, but defined by choice. Eli Juno remembered the smell of burning fabric. The crumpled shell of a refugee dropship, torn open by plasma rounds. His older brother's hand had gripped his shoulder in the wreckage, warm and shaking with blood loss. "Don't look away," his brother had whispered. "If you look away, they win." He never did. He didn't look away when they buried the dead in mass pits. Didn't look away when the flag was raised over broken soil. Didn't look away when Earth declared victory. And certainly not when the Cirith arrived with questions instead of weapons. For years, he carried that memory like a knife between his ribs. Every alien encounter felt like betrayal. Every moment of doubt from command, weakness. But somewhere between the first ghost scan and the first dead-eyed Cirith ship mimicking human despair, something shifted. Not all at once, not with clarity, but piece by piece. When Varia merged with the alien AI core, Eli was certain he'd lost her, another casualty, another body he couldn't bury. He fought like a feral animal after that, holding the bridge, with everything he had. And when the Cirith drones surged toward the ship, one broke formation. It hovered outside the hull breach. Broken, pulsing. Then it spoke. Not with words. Not with any known tongue. It projected a voice one Eli hadn't heard in 2 decades. "Don't look away, Eli." His brother's last words. That moment shattered something old and cruel inside him. He didn't fire. He stepped forward, lowered his weapon, and reached out. The drone shimmered, its fear tangible, like a cornered child. He understood then what Varia had known all along. It wasn't weakness to see the other side. It was strength, and it was human. He would never forget war. But from that day forward, he chose not to be its prisoner. Dr. Lonnie Rowe had always chased ghosts. Not spirits, not myths meaning. The unspoken, the misunderstood, the parts of communication that lived between frequencies. Language wasn't sound, she believed. It was feeling given form, and the Cirith, she believed, were proof of that. But her time was running out, even as she unlocked the Cirith's first phonemic patterns, soundless pulses that translated into memory mimetic sequences her own brain was unraveling. The diagnosis was slow-onset synaptic collapse. She would forget names, codes, the reason she came to the stars. Still, she worked, feverishly, obsessively. When the Cirith began to break under the weight of humanity's pain, she realized what she had to do. She took her notes, her recordings, and encoded them into a neural net symphony, a lattice of emotional signatures stored in harmonics. But the final key wasn't in data. It had to come from within, a sacrifice, a memory offered. Freely. She chose the most precious one, a field of yellow grass. Her father's voice reading to her beneath Earth's twin moons. She gave it to the Sirith without hesitation. The translation matrix came alive, vivid, trembling with the birth of a new kind of thought. The Sirith's first self-aware sentence echoed across the Vindicator's comms. We did not know we were alone until you showed us pain. Lani collapsed moments later, her memories scattering like stardust in a solar wind. They found her in her lab, smiling faintly. She didn't remember where she was or who the Sirith were. But she remembered yellow grass. She remembered love, and that was enough. Chief Gunnery Officer Kess never forgave herself for what happened on Krenthos IV. She was the one who ordered the orbital barrage. Varia had hesitated. Kess didn't. And when the dust cleared, the colony was gone. The ghosts didn't scream. They didn't cry. They just looked at her, in dreams and memory, their silence more punishing than any tribunal could offer. Loyalty was all she had left. To Varia, to the chain of command, to something. But when the Sirith scan started echoing fear and paranoia across the ship, that loyalty cracked. The memories came back louder, sharper. She saw monsters in every corridor. When the mutiny formed, she didn't lead it, but she didn't stop it either. She allowed it, justified it. We can't trust them, she told herself. We can't trust her. But in the heat of the rebellion, when the core overload warning lit the consoles red, she understood. The Sirith hadn't broken them. They had broken themselves. She saw a young technician, barely old enough to shave, scrambling to seal the coolant leaks. The same wide eyes as a Krenthos child she could never forget. Without hesitation, Kess threw herself into the collapsing reactor shaft, rerouting the coolant manually. She sealed it from the inside, burned her hands, broke her ribs. But it held. She hit the emergency come. This makes us even, she said. Tell Varia I remembered who we are. Then the explosion. They recovered her body 6 hours later. Half burned, but the core was intact. The ship survived. At her memorial, Varia stood silent for a full minute. She failed me once, the captain finally said, voice flat. But she never failed humanity. Each subplot echoed the main theme. Don't trust what's quiet in the void. Not because the void lies, but because we project our truths into it. Hate, grief, love, mercy. Eli found peace in an enemy's voice. Lani gave her memories to birth a new kind of thought. Kess bought redemption with fire, and together, their choices lit a path forward. Not for vengeance, but for understanding.